Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Okwayemi and you're very much welcome. So in today's video, I'll be talking about nursing specialties that actually allow remote working. So in the last 4 or 5 months, I've been searching for remote jobs in nursing, and from my research so far, I've actually found about 8 specialties that actually allow nurses to work remotely. So some of these roles are either hybrid or fully remote. So hybrid in the sense that you'll be required to go to the office on some days and then you work from home on some other days. So some can say, oh, on Mondays and Wednesdays you come to the office, Tuesdays and Fridays you work from home, something in that line. So that's for hybrid. And some of these jobs actually allow you to work fully from home, like fully home based. You don't even have to go to the office. So let's just get started. I have about 8 of them. Guys, this is actually from personal experience, so this is not based on what I've heard. All of these jobs, or let me say about 80% of these jobs, are jobs that I have applied for in the last 4 or 5 months. So I've done a lot of research and I know this is actually very true. I've also been able to speak to some of the managers in these roles, and they actually told me they either work hybrid or work from home and all of that. So anyways, let's get into the video. So let's start with occupational health nursing. So this comes in different dimensions. I mean, when you're searching for occupational health jobs, there are several ways you would find this kind of jobs online. Sometimes they would say occupational health nurse advisor. Sometimes you would find occupational health advisor. Sometimes you would find something like employee health and well-being officer, employee health and well-being advisor. Anyway, so this job, for this role, what you would be required to do primarily is to conduct risk assessment. So you pretty much specialize in providing care for people in the workplace. You do a lot of health promotion, you do risk assessment, you give immunizations, you give health education. You do quite a lot of things when it comes to health and well-being of employees in whatever organization you work. Part of your job is also to conduct pre-employment assessments where you take blood samples. So yeah, they do a lot of venipunctures. Like I said, they give vaccinations as well. So a lot of occupational health nurse roles are found in recent times actually offer hybrid working, in the sense that they can tell you that, oh, you could work from home, say on Fridays, you can work from home, say on Mondays, but then you'll be required to come into work, say 4 days in a week, and then 1 day in a week you work from home. Hybrid in nature anyways, that's what I've realized from my research. So talking about research, the second role I've actually put down on my list is the clinical research nurse role. For this particular one, this is something I actually applied for recently, so I know so much about this right now because I've been doing quite a lot of research on this particular role. So for the clinical research nurse role, quite a lot of employers actually allow research nurses to work from home, say once a week. They actually take rotation. So I know this because I actually spoke to a manager recently, and she told me that people in her department are actually allowed to work from home 1 day per week. So they actually rotate it within themselves. Do you get? So what do they actually do? If you want to know what research nurses do, they do quite a lot. They are in charge of recruiting patients for clinical trials. They conduct clinical visits. They actually anchor clinics as well. So they also administer a lot of medications, and they monitor their patients throughout the clinical trial process. They are also responsible for recording a lot of data, for keeping a huge chunk of information as well. So they do a lot of record keeping, they do a lot of data management as well. They monitor patients, of course, and they also recruit patients for clinical trials. So from what I've just learned in recent times, I've learned that they actually allow their nurses to work from home, say once in a week, some of them even twice a week, but most of them actually told me once a week they're allowed to work from home. So a lot of you might be wondering why I did not mention the salaries for, say, the occupational health nurse and of course the research nurse. And the reason why I actually decided not to mention the salaries, because for these jobs, the ones I applied for, they were actually related to NHS, like they were NHS jobs when I applied for them. I know that private organizations also employ like occupational health nurses or research nurses, I know, but because the ones that I've made inquiries about are like NHS jobs, and you guys know that NHS salary is more or less like fixed. So the NHS actually uses the agenda for change for salaries. So if you want to know more about the salary for this job, just go online and type agenda for change, and then you will see the breakdown of the salaries in the NHS. But for these roles, they are band 6 roles, the ones I've applied for anyways. They're band 6 roles. Yeah, so for band 6 you get to earn between 35k approximately. You get to between 35 and 42k per annum. So you might want to look that up anyways. So the next one on my list is actually the patient safety manager. I actually saw this recently. I'm not sure if I even applied for it because I get notifications a lot for this kind of jobs. So for this role, I think it was even a band 7 role, I think. But they also have band 6 position for a patient and safety manager. So what do they really do? I'm sure you're wondering, what do they do? You're pretty much in charge of patient safety, so to say. You conduct a lot of risk assessment, incident reporting, and everything related to safety and risk management when it comes to patient care. So that's pretty much what they do. Also, they allow their nurses to either work from home. I know it is almost impossible for you to work from home like every day of the week as a patient safety manager, but certain days in the week they're actually allowed to work from home. Say once a week you can work from home, and then other days you have to be in the hospital. As regards salary, it's the same as the occupational health role or the research nurse role. It is still based on AFC agenda for change. If you're getting this role in the NHS, salaries are actually fixed. But like I said, I found a band 6 position for this role. I've also found a band 7 position for this role. So if it's band 6, like I said, it's between 35k to 42k pounds per annum approximately. So just so you know. For the next role, this is actually very, very interesting. Before going to the next point, let me just give a background story. So back in 2020, when I was doing my research, of course I wanted to go for my master's degree, but I was doing my research because I wasn't so sure of what to study. So of course I was thinking of nursing, doing my master's degree in nursing, but a particular field actually popped up in my mind, and that's nursing informatics or health informatics. But after doing so much research, then in 2020, I found out that nursing informatics wasn't like trending yet in the UK. Like at that time, it was already trending in America, but it wasn't like really, really trending in the UK in 2020. So that's actually one of the reasons why I actually decided not to go for a master's degree in nursing informatics. Now in 2023, you'll be so amazed to know that there are several nursing informatics roles now, like several of them. I see them every day. And of course, because I set up notification for this particular role, I get those alerts when those jobs pop up in the NHS website. So recently I got a notification for this role. So this particular role is called the Digital Clinical Facilitator, and then in bracket, I remember for that job in bracket they actually put clinical informatics. So I was so inquisitive, like what is this role all about? I remember clicking on it and then going to the job description and all of that, and even the requirements. As a nurse, you can actually apply for this job. In fact, that particular role that I clicked on, the opening was actually for a nurse. They wanted a nurse for that role in the NHS, one of the NHS in Manchester. Like, I was so amazed. Like, I didn't realize that nursing informatics is now like very, very trending in the UK. So if you're into IT as a nurse, yeah, if you like information technology, if you like to analyze a lot of data, you would love this job. Another thing that is actually very, very pertinent is you have to be highly skilled when it comes to the use of Microsoft Office. I'm not talking about basic knowledge of Microsoft Office. I'm talking about, if not expert level, at least intermediate level when it comes to how well you can use the Microsoft Office, because that is going to be like the main thing that will be required for this job. Also, you'll be required to deliver Hive training for employees. Like when you have new employees, or even new nurses, new employees generally, you'll be required as a digital clinical facilitator to provide trainings on how to use those softwares at work, how to input data, how to use the Hive and all of that. So when it comes to information management, you would also be analyzing quite a lot of data. So you really have to know how to use the Microsoft Office. The next job on this list is actually related to this. I found this just some days ago, and it's called the Nurse Analyst role. Honestly, when I found this, I was like so amazed. Like, they actually specified it nurse analyst. Of course, this particular position, I think it was a private organization that actually put it out. A law firm, yeah, I remember. So it was even a law firm that was looking for a nurse analyst. When I saw the role, I was really so like surprised. So it's the same job description as that of the digital clinical facilitator. You analyze a lot of info, and of course a lot of data. You have to be very competent when it comes to the use of Microsoft Office. You'll be required to give a lot of trainings to employees when it comes to software, how to use certain softwares and all of that. Like, it is so interesting. So nurse analyst is also related to the digital clinical facilitator. So when you're looking for jobs in this line, so don't streamline your search to just say nurse analyst or analyst. Be very precise. Look for roles related to digital clinical facilitator, or just type certain keywords like, say, clinical informatics, health informatics, nursing informatics, digital facilitator, nurse analyst, those kind of keywords. When you're doing your search, use those kind of keywords in your search, and then it will bring out quite a lot of roles in this regard. It's so funny because for the nurse analyst role, the particular one I saw, they actually said that I think for like 2 or 3 days in a week you'll be working from home. You would only be required to go into the office, I think maybe twice a week, honestly, and that sounds so good to me. Also, for the digital clinical facilitator role, you'll be required to work from home. I mean, you would only go to the office when you need to conduct training. So the next role is actually the CHC nurse assessor. CHC stands for continuing health care. I'll put it on the screen for you guys. When I saw this role, honestly, I was so like, initially I was confused, like, what is CHC all about? But when I read further, I kind of now understood what the role like entails. It is actually quite an interesting role, and it's so funny because it is related to the next job I'll be talking about. So they're kind of related in some ways. So for the CHC nurse assessor role, so I'll just say CHC for short, or let me just say the nurse assessor role for short. You guys get what I mean? But for this particular role, it was tagged as continuing healthcare nurse assessor role, so CHC. So what this job entails is actually very interesting. You'll be required to perform or conduct a lot of assessments, CHC assessments. You perform this kind of assessments with clients, family members, and all of that. So more like you have a caseload per day or per week. I wouldn't know how it will be, but most likely maybe per week you have a caseload of clients that you would assess, and you would have to collaborate with quite a lot of other professionals for this role. Also, you have to be very good at communication for you to excellently perform this role, because it will require quite a lot of communication with all the stakeholders, of course clients, and of course your bosses, and of course other professionals. Because I've realized with this role, it's more like a multidisciplinary role, because you would be involved in assessments with a lot of other professionals, but mainly what you'll be doing is assessment. So you're assessing people, families, and all of that. Now to the salary. For this particular role, it was actually advertised by a private organization, so I can actually understand why it's actually very juicy, right? For the salary, so it says £42,000 to £48,000 per annum. Guys, this is actually very sweet, and of course it also comes with £3,000 car allowance. Now there's actually a mandatory requirement for this role. You have to be able to drive, so you must have a full UK driving license. You must be able to drive, and you must have your own car, or you must have access to your own car, or have access to a car. You guys get what I mean? So that's like a mandatory requirement, because even though it is fully home based, it says that it is fully home based, but sometimes you might be required to travel nationally. So that is why you'll be given like £3,000 car allowance for your national travel. That is what it says, but the salary is between 42 to 48k per annum. Guys, this is actually very sweet. What do you think? And it's a permanent role. It's full time, but you're working from home fully. Like, it's not even hybrid. It's home based. You're working from home, and you basically be required to do a lot of assessment, like I mentioned. So personally, I feel like that's okay for a nurse. Like, if you get this kind of a job, it's actually amazing. Now, you don't even necessarily have to be a nurse to do this job. Like, you can be a physiotherapist. I'm actually reading from here. You can be an occupational therapist. You can be a registered mental health nurse. So even if you're not an adult nurse, you can be a mental health nurse. You can be a physiotherapist and all of that. So it's actually very, very interesting. The next one I'll talk about is the disability assessor role. I think I've mentioned this previously in one of my videos. And for this role, it's so funny because I applied for this role like 2 years ago, just out of curiosity. It wasn't even because I needed a job. I just wanted to know what the job was all about. And ever since then, because I set up alerts for job notification, so I usually get like notification whenever these kind of roles come up, right? So for the disability assessor, this particular private organization, they're offering 35k, I think. Yeah, 35k per annum. It is fully remote. You're working from home fully. It is not hybrid. You're not required to go into the office. And what do? You pretty much do assessment. So that's why I was saying earlier that it's kind of related to the nurse assessor role, because all you do here is also to assess people. You're actually required to conduct about 3 assessments per day. And of course, those assessments would actually involve, assessing an individual who is making a claim, taking into account all of the information presented, of course, including any supporting evidence. You'll be required to carry out a comprehensive review and, of course, analysis to enable you to complete a robust and, of course, structured report. And the reports would actually have to be very, very detailed. Like, you have to consider the functional impact of their health condition, or say impairment, for instance, on their daily living and mobility. You'd consider their current medication and treatment. And of course, you now have to justify how you came to these conclusions. So, yeah, it actually involves quite a lot of assessment, detailed assessment. So that will be all for today, guys. If I get to know about other opportunities that would actually allow nurses to work remotely, like work from home, even if it's hybrid, I would actually let you know, maybe in another video or maybe in the comment section. But if you know of other roles, other specialties that actually allow flexible working or remote working, please let us know in the comment section. I would love to read from you guys. If you're yet subscribed, please do also subscribe, like, and share this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.